Hey guys, hope you're all good. Today we're going to be doing a tutorial on 3-point lighting for interviews. Now I've got two scenarios to go through today. One's high key and one's low key. One's more of a documentary style, a little bit of a contrasty look, and one of them's more of a corporate, happy kind of look. So we'll go into them now and I'll break it down for you. So the lights that we're going to be using today are LED panels. This is a Pixapro VNIX 1500S, and I've also got a 2000 LED panel as well. Now the reason I like to use LEDs for green screen work and for interview work is for a few reasons. First of all, these are daylight balanced and they come with a tungsten gel, which is really useful. They also come with this remote. Now if I attach this antenna, this means that I can control this light wirelessly, which is really useful for if they're high up or if they're far away, I can just dim them down, which is perfect. Or I can use the knob on the back here. Another big thing is that you can power these off a V-mount battery, which means if you're doing like a documentary, you don't always know if you're going to get power at the location, so if you can carry a few of these in your bag, you can power these for a few hours, no problem. Another big thing is that they're quite small and light, which means I can have 3 of these in the back of my car. I can carry the bags around no problem. With some of the old tungsten lights, they're so heavy and they generally didn't come in like a box or anything, or a case. It was just a pain to carry them around. These are nice and small and light. They don't produce much heat at all, which means I can have 3 of these in a small room and it's not going to make the room hot or sweaty or anything like that, so you're not going to have that issue. But last but not least is the CRI and the TLCI values of these lights. It's 95. Now what does that mean? It means that the colour rendition and the colour accuracy of this light is very high, which means if you've got sort of more expensive lights, this will fit in no problems. You're not going to have that horrible green cast that some of the cheaper manufactured lights have. We've got a fluorescent here. It was actually bought from India about 5 years ago. And I'll show you an example of before and after using this light versus a cheaper, lower CRI light, and you'll see a huge difference. So here is a comparison. The LED is on the left and the fluorescent is on the right. Now there's not a great deal of difference, however something that you will notice if you look at Tom's face, our actor, you'll see that on the left his skin is definitely more warm and has a lot more reds and pinks and magentas in it, whereas the fluorescent isn't too green, but it really pulls away those colours and it stops it from looking a little bit more natural. This can be bad for interviews really, because the last thing you want is for the person you're interviewing to look pale and ill. You want them to look healthy and you want the skin to look pink and red and healthy. As you can see on the log footage here on the left, you can definitely see a lot more of the red and the pink when compared to the fluorescent. So that is why a high CRI and TLCI light is important, and both of these are 95, which is great. So this is our first look. This is our sort of commercial high key look. It's quite a happy low contrast look, and it consists of a key light, a fill light and a backlight. Some people call backlights kickers or hair lights. They're essentially the same thing. Our backlight would be preferable if it was more around the back, but we didn't really have the room. It would have been in shot, so it's a little bit off to the side. Our backlight is the 1500S from Pixapro. It's an LED panel, but I'm not actually going to use a softbox for it. I'm actually going to take that off. And our key light is another light from Pixapro. It's a 2000 LED panel. I'm going to use a softbox on this, and because it's quite a large source, it tends to wrap around the face really nice. I'm just going to angle it at about a 45-degree angle, and then I'm going to set up a fill light just to remove the shadow on his cheek, and I'm going to use a light meter just to get the exposure right for the camera, but more importantly just to make sure that the contrast ratio is 1:1. So you'll see now that this is our setup. If we take away the backlight, you'll see that Tom just sort of goes a little bit more two-dimensional and sort of blends into the background a little bit, and that's not what we want. So if I turn it back on, you'll see that it just highlights the side of his face and just helps give him a little bit of separation and make it a bit more three-dimensional. And if we turn the fill light off, you'll see this is just a key light and the backlight, and this could work fine with a little bit of tweaking. And if we just put the key light on its own, you'll see that you get a very simple look, that could work fine for most interview scenarios. And if we turn them all off, you'll see that we expose for the background, and you'll see that our actor Tom is very underexposed. We could of course expose for Tom's face, but the background would be completely blown out and we'd have no information there whatsoever, which is obviously not good. And if we begin to turn them all on one by one, this is the key light on its own, and you'll see a huge difference in the exposure already. It's a vast improvement. If we turn that fill light on, that just evens out the face, makes it quite flat, but it gives it a 1:1 ratio. and that backlight turned on. It just gives it a bit more of a three-dimensional shape and looks a little bit less flat. Because of course when you have a key light and a fill light that has a contrast ratio of 1:1, you are in danger of having a very, very flat looking image. Now of course, like I say, this is a very much a corporate sort of look. It's a generic 3-point lighting setup, but this might not be the look you're going for. You might be going for more of a contrasty look, or perhaps you don't have 3 lights, maybe you only have 1 or 2 lights. So we're going to move into the garage now and we're going to set up a more of a simple setup, and I'll show you a different kind of look that you can get. So the look that we're going to go for is quite a simple look, and it's only going to be using 2 lights. Now you can see that there's a practical just above Joe behind him. It's a fluorescent tube. Usually these kind of lights are quite awful and green, but we're going to embrace this considering we're in a garage. Now I'm going to start off by lighting this scene with a backlight and a fill light. It's going to be the same light. It's going to be the 1500S from Pixapro. I'm going to hide it directly behind Joe, and what that's going to do is going to give a backlight, but it's not going to be flaring the lens or anything like that because you can't see it, but it is going to bounce off the wall to the right. As you can see here now, when I turn it on, it gives a little bit of fill light into Joe's face, as well as acting as a backlight for his hair, his shoulder, his ear, and some of the metalwork you can see on the left of the frame. And again, this is being motivated by the fluorescent that's already in the room, which is great. So if I turn the key light on now, you'll see it's a reasonably soft key. We've not got much fill. Of course, I could add a polyboard in there or a bounce card or something like that, just to sort of get rid of the shadows on his face, but I'm more than happy to have more of a contrasty look for this scenario. I'm using the Pixapro 1500S again with a softbox attachment on top of it, and also a grid. And the reason I've put the softbox on, one, just to soften the light and help it wrap around his face a little bit more and give it the look of a bigger source really. But I've also added a grid on there, and what a grid's going to do, it's just going to focus the light onto the actor a little bit more, and it's not going to spill around the room. And you can see this now as we rotate the light. You'll see that we can no longer see the light because the grid is literally blocking the light from spilling over to the side. Really important if if you're in a small room, especially a room like this with white walls. The last thing I want is to turn a light on and for the whole room to be illuminated. I want the light to focus purely on what the subject is, and in this case it's our actor's face. You can see on the left of frame it's still quite dark, but our actor is lit reasonably well, and that is just because of the grid. Now if I turn off the backlight, you'll see what that was doing. The fluorescent behind him is actually giving his hair a little bit of a backlight, as you can see now. But what the LED was doing, it was just highlighting a little bit of the metalwork on the left. It was just amplifying basically the existing light, and it is bouncing off that wall and giving him a little bit of a fill light, and it just brings up the exposure overall. It's not doing a great deal because again we already have an existing backlight, but we're just enhancing that, and that's the point of a backlight. It doesn't have to be over the top. The whole point of a backlight really is just to give a little bit of separation and make it look a bit more three-dimensional. Now these LED panels are so small and lightweight. Once they're on a light stand, feel free to just pick them up and walk around the room and see what kind of look you can get on your actor's face, or your talent, or your model, whoever it is. Here you can see I just picked it up and I was walking around just to play around with the shadows a little bit and play around with the mood and the feel of this shot. But that's the great thing about these LED panels. They're so small, you can just pick them up and walk around, and when you're happy you can just place it there and do the shoot. Okay guys, that is the end of our 3-point lighting tutorial for interviews. I hope you've learned something, and if you like the look that these lights have given today, I'll put a link to these lights in the description along with a discount code so you can check them out. But thanks for watching guys.